and welcome to my channel. I am ZodiacBandit, and today we're going to be going over episode 39 of Critical Role, Campaign 3. Let's get right into it. We start with the party, getting some rooms and the Fire by Spire. The Spire by Fire. I messed it up already, but I'm keeping it in. Screw it. They talk about who they want to inform about Lord Esteros' death, and they are worried about Evelyn, Lord Esteros' caretaker. Imogen doesn't want to put her in danger. Ashton thinks that she might be dead already. Chetney says it's the noble thing to do to tell Evelyn about all this. They wonder how they should hand out the letters Lord Esteros wrote for everyone and make it seem like they weren't the ones who killed him. Orm says Lord Esteros trusted Mistress Shishadri. Even they were messing it up in the episode, so I think I'm okay to mess it up. And they should give her all the letters because she has connections and will be able to pass this out. Imogen says they're the ones that got him killed and points out that Odahan read Orm's mind to see that he was even involved in all of this. FCG agrees with Imogen and says that they're going down a dangerous path and they need to be ready for it. Ashton says that they aren't the cause of Lord Esteros' death, but are his legacy based on the letter that he wrote for them. The party questions if they should change the name to something about Lord Esteros, but Chetney just finished making the wooden logo for the Bell's Hells and says it would be bad for branding purposes. They send a message to Mistress Shishadri, informing her of Lord Esteros' passing and that they want to meet with her. The mistress replies saying that this is bad news indeed and will meet the party, but asks where, at his manor, or somewhere else. The mistress says, Imogen sends another message that says that they are at this Fire by Spire in room 69 and would like for her to be discreet about meeting them. She says she will be there shortly. After they send a message to the mistress, FCG sends a message to Evelyn. FCG says that something bad has happened to Lord Esteros and to not return home, she may be in danger, and to stay safe. Evelyn says she understands and she thanks them. And then she says she hopes Lord Esteros is alright. The party question if it was best not to tell her outright over the spell, or if it would have been better, or if it's better to tell her in person. They choose in person as eye contact is required for something like this. Ashton doesn't think it's a good idea to give all the letters to the mistress as they are getting paranoid, but Imogen points out they were always paranoid. The party then turn their attention to Lauda and asks how she's doing. Lauda says that she's alright thanks to everyone, and doesn't know how she'll ever repay this debt. But Imogen says there is no debt to pay, and then Ashton follows up by saying the party wanted more of her, so they went and got her back. Fern tries to return the necklace from the dreamscape that young Lauda, or Matilda, was making, but she goes to grab it, and it's not around her neck. Lauda asks what the necklace looked like, and Fern says it was beautiful. Lauda says it was probably the one from her father to her mother. And it was nice and had 3 big gems on it. And it was, something he saved up for a while for. They ask Lauda if she is Matilda. And Lauda says she was Matilda Bradbury. But she's just Lauda now, as she forgot who she was after a long time alone. And claims the name came from her singing to Pate, La La La. And then morphed into Lauda from there. Sorry for my lackluster singing. It's not going to get any better. FCG asks if she is good at singing, and Lauda says no, but Pate disagrees, being pushed back down by Lauda. They ask if Lauda feels Delilah, but Lauda doesn't even know herself, as there wasn't really ever a way for her to hear her on command. They ask if Lauda can still use her magic, but Lauda is worried that might bring Delilah back. Fern says Pike, who was really awesome, said she could only feel Lauda when she came back to life, so she should be fine. Lauda does try to use Eldritch Blast, and the spell forms in her hands, and she holds it there. She then throws it at Ashton, who said that they were willing to be the test dummy for the spell, as they have a lot of health. It hits Ashton, and they see that the spell looks exactly the same as before. Imogen brings up the fact that Lauda had magic before Delilah, so that's probably why it still looked the same. Lauda says her magical talents were the reason her parents pushed her out the door that night to the dinner, as that might have given her a better life. As they're talking about this, there's a knock at the door, and a familiar voice on the other side. It's the Green Seekers, Ollie and Gus. They were asked to get the party and to take them to Lord Esteros' place for Mr. Shishandri. I have to say her name a million times. It's rough. They inform the party that they have an armed group of guards around the building just in case they try to run. The party get a little distrusting or distrustful of Lady Shishandri here, as this is not exactly what they wanted. So Chetney asked if they can really trust the mistress, and what if the note says something like, "Fuck you, bitch," or something like that. He tries to read the letter through the envelope with a light behind it, but can't. Chetney asks if they should open the sealed letter to find out if they messed up by going to Shishandri, but Orem says that it's best, not to. But the rest of the party says open it, and once Chetney hears that the majority is in his favor, he cuts it open. Chetney reads the letter that talks about one of the last jobs that Esteros did for the mistress, and says that it seems to be good, but checks the end just in case it ends on good terms. The end speaks about the Bell's Hells and how the mistress should let them do what they're doing, and that's when Chetney decides to put the letter back in the envelope, and then Laudna fixes the seal, mending it, which is the most perfect use for the spell ever. Mail fraud. They should change the spell mending to mail fraud. It's perfect. The party open the door to the Green Seekers, as they now trust what's going on, and the Green Seekers don't think the Bells killed Lord Esteros, but they need to do their job just the same. Ashton tells them that if they see anything suspicious, they won't hesitate to kill it on the way there, no matter what the Seekers want them to do, and the Seekers give him a deputy badge, which Ashton says makes them feel gross. The Seekers and six armed Wilders take them to Lord Esteros' home. Orem doesn't see anything suspicious on the way as they go. When they get to Lord Esteros' place, they see other Wilders there, and they see that they have brought Lord Esteros down the stairs. Mr. Shishandri thanks them for coming and wants to get this over with and send the party on their way, however way that is, which is a really badass line. Another figure begins to inspect his body. The party is allowed to watch the procedure. An extremely pale woman with silver gray hair and human-like facial features, but has some sort of magic or magical essence to them, and has no eyebrows, which is to me the weirdest part of all of this. And her skin seems to be somewhat reflective like water, as Matt put it. She looks like a creepy doll. She looks at the party and asks if they're the ones who did this. Fern says no. FGG says that they are not a fan of this. She pulls out a golden skull pendant, and it looks a lot like some of the pendants that the Paragon's Call members had, but she's not with them, as they ask her about this, but she's in fact with the Dusk Maven, which I'm pretty sure, if I've been paying attention, which I think I have been, that is supposed to be like the Raven Queen over here in Marquette. So, just in case that caused any confusion for anybody, unless I'm causing more, which I hope I am. I think that'd be funny. The Wilders at this point surround the party. Shishandri says this is grave mystic Weeva Vadul? Vudal? God damn it, Matt. What are these names? And this is her job. Weeva then casts Speak with Dead on Lord Esteros' body. The spell lets you ask a corpse that still has a mouth and isn't undead and hasn't been dead for more than 10 days. Allows you to ask it 5 questions. She asks the body, when did you die? Lord Esteros answers, not but a day before. How did you die? I was killed by the legend. And who was the legend responsible for your death? The Legend of the Peaks, Odahan Thule. These strangers, and she turns the head of Lord Esteros to the party, were they responsible and involved in your demise? No. Do you have any final requests? And he asks to be laid to rest next to Mistress Pujaj in the Lucid Memorial Mausoleum. Weeva then turns to Shashadri, who is satisfied with all this, and Shashadri says she will make sure his final request is met. The Green Seekers ask if they can do anything else for the mistress. Shashadri asks them to go look after Odahan Thule, but the Green Seekers deny this request as it is above their pay grade and their personal experience. No shit. She's a badass. So the mistress turns to the Bell's Hells to see if they would be interested in hunting her down. Orym speaks for everyone with a lot of confidence and says they're very interested in hunting her down. This will be the second contract under the mistress that they will do. The party asks her about the title, the Legend of the Peaks. Shashadri tells them of the Apex War, where her title comes from. And God, I'm going to just butcher the name of this town, or this city. So forgive me. Shurwargus is the city where she grew her name, the home of the Stratos throne in the Coven Peaks. Imogen knows a little bit about the Stratos throne as she grew up under it in the area. It is now much smaller of a council than what it was back then. Imogen grew up in Galvin and saw many soldiers of this war pass through. Houses were built for them, but after the conflict was resolved or ended, they were repurposed. Mr. Shashadri also says that Odahan Thule was a nightmare during this war involving this Stratos throne. Shashadri and the Seekers will make a report about this and clear up any mistrust toward the Hells from any of the members of the council here. The party also tell her that Lord Estros made documents saying that the Hells were now the owners of his skyship, the Silver Sun. She says she will process this as soon as possible and says they should be able to use it as early as tomorrow. Chenny hands her letters and tells her that he opened it out of mistrust for her because of how everything started, but once he read a little bit of it, he realized he was wrong, and then hands her the rest of the letters and asks her to please hand them out. Shashadri says she doesn't see that it looks like it's been opened, but Chetney says they've got their tricks. She smiles at this. FCG can't believe that Mr. Shashadri isn't opening the letter the second she gets it, but she says she's used to holding on to letters like these. Weeva then comes up and says that the body is ready to be moved. The party asks Weeva about her work, and she does this throughout the city when needed and can do house calls, but mostly does this type of work for people like Mr. Shashadri. She then locks eyes with Laudna and is intrigued by her immediately, and extends a hand toward Laudna, and Laudna takes it. Laudna's hand is cold, Weeva's hand is not. Crossing that off the list, seems that Weeva is, in my opinion, a changeling from what I've been looking at. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but I'm leaving some room to be wrong, as I always should. Weeva finds this very interesting and that she likes her. Laudna, for the first time, is being creeped out by someone else, and finds the way that Weeva is looking at her to be rather alarming. Weeva looks at her again and says, "Oh, welcome back," which, that's fucked up. That's like someone who sits in a morgue all the time. Like, the type of people, I'm going on a tiny tangent here, the type of people who sit in a morgue, they mess me up. That stuff's creepy to me. I don't get it. And after she says welcome back, she begins to walk away. And as she does, Imogen asks her in her mind if she can see anything else around Laudna. Someone else. Weeva says she wasn't really looking that hard. What should she be looking for? What's going on with this troop? Imogen says that they will need to talk later at some point. Weeva says people die all the time. I'm sure we'll meet up again. Again. Super fucked up. This character's fucked. Imogen tells Shashadri that they are leaving as soon as they can on the skyship. Shashadri says they will need to wait until tomorrow morning. Ashton says to leave out as much as possible about them being involved in all this. The less people who know they are involved, the better. Shashadri agrees. The party give their final goodbyes to Lord Estros, who seems to be happy, resting, knowing who will be living on for him, even after seeing two friends of his dead in this house not too long ago, Bertrand and Lauda. And what's really sad about that, if you think about it, he doesn't know if Lauda's alive or not. He didn't get to die knowing that, unless the spell works in a way that he can, like when he turned the head and saw Lauda, maybe, who knows. Before they go, Chetney says that they should get some cooking stuff from the source, so it's as close as possible to Lord Estros's recipes. So Lauda summons Pate, who sneaks inside and steals a bunch of spices for them from the kitchen, which doesn't seem to be looking like too damaged from any of the conflict. So now they choose to go to the Soot and Swill in the Smolder Spire. They make it to the Soot and Swill, no problem, and they buy some rooms and get some rest, which is harder for them to come by as they kind of just rested with the time difference and all that. So they kind of lay there for a little while and wake up a little bit later of a time in the morning. The next morning, Orym explains that he smelt a similar toxin on Lord Estros' sword, Turmoil, as that of what he smelt on Will when Will died. It seems to be able to stop revival and won't be an option for Lord Estros. They question why this wasn't used on them, and come to the conclusion that it wasn't a planned fight like the attack on the Arashari and like the attack on Lord Esteros, so next time they probably won't be so lucky. FCG tries to identify the toxin and needs a medicine check to do so, and they learn that this toxin is not magical and not of this world, which is scary. Imogen suggests that it might be lunar, maybe something from Ruidus. FCG does see Turmoil stats, and it's a standard magic club, but once the command word is spoken, it turns into a scythe, and the command word is done. Chetney and Ashton would both benefit from this scythe or club, but the party can't decide who should have it, so they both hold it, and Chetney says that if Ashton gets the scythe, Chetney should get the hammer of Ashton, and Ashton doesn't think so and gives back the scythe to Chetney. The party now want to eat before they go see their ship. As they walk down, they see Pretty is serving some food, and when he sees them, he takes the food he was serving to someone else and gives it to them instead, and adds a bit more spices to it, as it's them and it should be special for them. Things get a little awkward because the FCG constantly pushing questions on him about his love life and what he's been doing now. Pretty ends this by saying that he's trying to be a good friend to everybody, and he says he needs to go drain the bacon grease. And of course, Laura Bailey decides to make it dirty. You know what? Frankly, everyone made this dirty. So you know what? Everyone at the table made this dirty, and I'm going to stand up for DMs everywhere. Stop making things dirty when they're not. Except this was pretty dirty. So you know what? I take that back for this one. But other times, you guys keep doing this. The party make their way to the Aerospire to go see the Silver Sun, their new ship. When they get to the port, they see 3 ships, including the Silver Sun. They go down to the port captain, or up to the port captain, Tang, and ask if the ownership for the ship has been transferred. That's a crazy sentence. Tang says it'll take another 15 minutes or so before it's all done. So they go check on the Silver Sun to see if it is skyworthy. When they see it, it does have some damage from their previous travel, and it seems that both of the masts are near being completely fixed. They see the first mate, Khalil, who points out that it's only been a few days since they last saw him, but he has been notified of the ownership change, so he goes and gets Captain Xandis. The party explained to Xandis where they want to go, Eos, and that they'd like to leave soon. Xandis explains the damage and how long it will take to fix up before the party can properly go out. And the party offer up Chetney to help get the rest of the repairs moving, as the rest of the group go and get diamonds and rubies and other sorts of stuff. And with Chetney's help, the Silver Sun is now skyworthy once more, and they go, and the party choose which route they need to take to get to Eos. They can go the long way around the Hellcatch Valley and through Ashenador, which is much safer, but is 11 days of travel. Or they can go through the Hellcatch Valley, which is a lot more dangerous, but it's only 9 days. They also ask if they can go to the Gloom Jungle to meet with the Gorgine for Chetney, and both paths seem to take them there. So they choose the shorter path as they don't want to give Odahan more time to do her thing, and they need to figure things out before the Apogee Solstice, so that they're not on a time crunch, or an even bigger time crunch, because they're on one. So they set off to Sky instead of Sea, and the first 2 days go by uneventful. But the third day, a storm is brewing before them, but they now have a little bit more experience on the open sky, so they tie themselves down to the ship and try to hold on, only for Chetney, Fern, Imogen, and Aurum all to fall off overboard anyway. Luckily, they don't go flying off completely, as they just hang over the side, and using various abilities, they're able to stay there or receive help until the storm subsides, and then they're all fine and continue on with the rest of their travel. The fourth day is also uneventful, but the fourth night is where the crazy shit happens. A few members are still on watch, Chetney, Fern, and Aurum. As they're on deck late at night, they see a red flare in the sky. Rudis is now a deep red, and Imogen is having a dream. She's with Lauda in a hut before they met the rest of the Hells, baking some cookies, but when she turns around, Lauda is gone, and the door to the hut is now open, and through it she sees a sandstorm. In the distance is a dark figure within the sandstorm. She runs after the figure, willing herself to catch it. When she gets there, it's not Lauda, but her mother in a black cloak. You need to run, Imogen. Back on the deck, Chetney feels the need to scratch, and turns into his werewolf form. Aurum, sensing that this is bad, gets close, and Chetney attacks, only for Fern to help and jump in. Chetney claws Aurum 2 times. Aurum slashes back at Chetney, and Fern creates a ball of sunlight on the edge of her staff and says, "The moon's getting real low," which, in my opinion, might be the best Avengers reference in Critical Role, because it was goddamn hilarious and perfectly timed. And wasn't just a straight ripoff. The moon's getting low instead of the sun's getting low. Moving on, before I get any more cringe. This forces Chetney to make a saving throw, to which he fails and keeps on fighting. Another round of fighting before Fern tries again, this time getting through to Chetney. However, he is below a set amount of hit points and now must roll another one, which he fails. His eyes are no longer red, but are feral. He attacks once more before Fern can finally pull him out of it. They ask what happened, and Chetney tells them that this is different from before. Normally it's Katha, but this time it's Ruidus, and this is wrong. This was a lot more frequent than the last time it should have been. Back into the dream, Imogen's mother disappears, and the storm clears up at the top and shows Ruidus. Imogen screams out, asking what it wants, but there's no response. She begins to fly upward before getting completely out of the storm. As she does, she begins to fall. And as she hits the ground, she wakes up. She then sends a message to her mother. "Are you there?" She gets a reply. "Imogen?" And that's where Matt ends the episode. Sorry for my terrible Matt impression of Imogen's mother there at the end. Don't know what came over me there. Thought my acting skills were getting better. But no, this was a fun episode. It actually kind of started off a little slow for me. But it picked up tremendously at the end. Like, even from like the first hour to the second hour, it was kind of slow, and then they got to the Estros Manor, and then they kind of did that whole thing with that mystic Weeva, which was fucked up and really interesting. And then the interaction with Pretty, I'm kind of getting bored of. If I'm being totally honest, I think that's the 3rd or 4th time they've run into Pretty after their whole altercation. I think it's time to move on. I love the character Pretty. I think he's great, so we can keep that. But I think it's time to push past this whole romantic thing. It was a fun joke for a while, but I think I'm kind of getting bored of it. but I think it's only because of, like, the frequency it's happened. It's happened a handful of times within the first, 39 episodes, which sounds ridiculous, but as I keep watching, I'm like, okay, again. So that's my only gripe. I'm kind of done with this joke, and I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack for that because I know lots of people love this joke. So, yeah. That's just me, though. That was literally the only thing I didn't like. I love how this lycanthropy stuff is, or lycanthropy? Werewolfness is now being sort of abused by Ruidus, which is interesting. I really like what Matt's doing with the dreams, how it's like another way of communication or warning to Imogen. Big fan of this toxic stuff. This toxic thing that can't allow someone to be brought back. That is a great idea. Hopefully it doesn't get used on the party, because that's a tad bit unfair. Like, Matt gave a good reason to why it didn't happen before, but now it seems like it's a possibility to happen. So hopefully they don't fight Odahan within the next little while and get stronger, so that when the fight happens, that isn't as big of a risk, because that would suck. I really enjoyed this whole let's get Lauda back thing, and if that option isn't presented anymore, that's kind of lame, because I feel like these characters they're at a point where if the option's there, it's going to be wanted, because they've been doing almost 40 episodes of these characters now, and they really enjoy it. It would be like, 25 episodes for Molly was kind of crappy, because that's a long time, but there was no healers there. No one could bring Molly back. They have a full group here, and 2 of them are healers. At the time, they only had Jester for that in Campaign 2. So, there's a bit of a difference there. So now with the option, if it was taken away, that would feel like a spell isn't used, and I can't use it at all, which is kind of lame. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and that if they're going to die, they die at a different fight and then get revived or something. Or at least have the attempt to get revived. But I don't know. I think it's a good idea to get rid of NPCs. And I hope, I don't hope. I know Matt will use it sparingly and not do it at inappropriate times. So, yeah. I guess I've dealt with my own worries there. So anyway, fun episode, amazing episode. Really enjoyed it. I'm excited that they now have this skyship to frolic about the world in. So that's cool. So yeah, I will see you guys Tuesday with whatever my next video is going to be. See you guys then. Peace.